right. Let's bring on a man who deserves absolutely no praise at all. Have we got Knowles in the next? There he is. Oh my God! I take it back. I take it back. You deserve praise for your wardrobe.
I just got this whole thing out of my closet. Just dusted it off this morning for our second day of Advent.
I was about to say you deserve no praise, but you deserve praise for that alone. Did Cynthia make that?
Cynthia, the only talented person at the Daily Wire, of course, made this. And I also wore it as a bit of like a good luck sweater. Because how did your meeting?
Yes.
What's going on with Another Kingdom? Are we going to be stars?
To one of the hottest producers in town. Now, but people who don't understand this, you have to understand getting something on TV is a question of jumping over hurdles, one hurdle after another after another. So no matter when you get there, until that thing is on the air, you have not gotten over the hurdles. But I've worked with this woman before, and when I first worked with her, they were just starting up. I don't want to name the producer, but they were just getting started, and they were kind of nowhere, and they were in danger. You didn't know if they were going to succeed or not. And I came back from one of several meetings with her, and I called my agent and said, "This is one of the smartest women in Hollywood I've ever met. I just really like her as a story person." Meanwhile, in between that time and now, they've become huge. They just have a couple of very big successes. So I walked in, and I really like her as a person too. But I walked in, and they immediately start bashing Trump. I mean, this is the thing I keep trying to explain to people. It's just they don't mean to do it. They're not being mean.
Right.
It's just they kind of assume that everybody's on the same page, and it's just conversation before a meeting. Just like you might say, how's your wife and all this stuff. Isn't Trump an idiot? That kind of thing. And my rule about this is I never allow them to assume that I agree with them. But I won't start a fight because I'm there to sell something. I'm there to sell my material, right? So I didn't say anything at first. The woman had she'd listened to like 4 episodes, which is amazing, of the Another Kingdom. She'd listened.
That's 3 more than I've listened to. That's a lot of episodes.
I don't know if you noticed, but you actually read the episodes. So
I was some drunken stupor, I'm sure.
So
yeah.
if nothing else, you now have a major producer in Hollywood who knows that you have no talent whatsoever.
I'll take it. Only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. That's what they say.
Exactly. But so she was into it. She was definitely into it. But I pitched the whole thing because there was another guy in the room. So I pitched the whole thing, and they did. And at one point, I finally said, because I know if they haven't Googled me already, and like I said, we worked together for a fairly long time on a project. If they haven't Googled me already, they will Google me eventually. They'll know. So at some point I said, look, I just want you to know that I'm a politically incorrect guy, so politically incorrect that I sometimes feel that I'm toxic and I don't really do a lot of these meetings anymore. And she didn't blink. So I thought, like, yeah, she knows. She knows who she's talking to. So all the and I even said at one point when they were talking about, Trump this, Trump that, I said, I'm kind of enjoying myself with all this. I didn't say because I don't love the guy. I have my problems with the guy too. And when they're talking about how rude he is, I can agree with that and all this. But I did warn them. So I don't know. She got back to my agent the next day and said, I'm still into this. I'm going to do some more due diligence. I want to listen to more of the show. Can we get rid of Knowles?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Please. That's necessary to the contract. Yeah.
So I'll probably hear more today, but it's like, I have more pitches to do. More people have heard it and want to do it. Look, the odds are always against it, but they didn't kick me out of the room. Let's put it that way. They did not say, we're not going to do this. They didn't call up. You usually find out pretty quickly whether they're out of it. She has done absolute due diligence. She is listening. She is talking about.
You have more courage than I do. I think it's because you're much more famous and successful than I am. Because when I'm on set or in a rehearsal or whatever, I've been in a lot of these situations, either with film or theater, and they start talking about politics and this is, I guess, when Trump was happening and even before then, and I just keep my mouth shut because they don't do it to be mean. They do it because it's so unfathomable that somebody would vote for a Republican, and I just keep my mouth shut. So it's probably better that you're very open about it.
Here's the thing. Here's the way I figured it for myself. You're an actor, right? You're there to play other people's. I live by my words. My words have to say what I mean. They have to start, So I never want to go in there and pretend to be something and then have them find out I'm something else. And so now my word doesn't mean anything, right? I think of it. If I'm going to survive, which I'm probably not in Hollywood, I've kind of thought like I won't survive. I don't care. I'll live another way. But if I'm going to survive. They have to realize that you can be on the other side of these questions and be a decent person. I've kind of been protected by the fact that I love gay people. You know, I've never had a problem. All my life, I've never had a problem. So I'm not in that camp. You know, I'm not in a place where they absolutely go blind. And I understand when they say Trump is rude. I agree, Trump is rude. But, you know, I'm a small government libertarian conservative, and if you can't work with a guy like that, you can't work with half the country, and you can't entertain half the country. So I'm actually bringing them an audience that they don't necessarily have, you know, and I think it's worth it to me to be honest, because I live by my words, you know.
But not us actors. We just lie. We're just paid liars. So if you're watching, producers, I disavow Andrew Klavan. I disavow Donald Trump. Please hire me.
But you know, another please, the audience has been so good. We're almost up to like 1,300 5-star reviews. Please keep coming. You know, come and send your friends, because we need you to listen. To have
it is so helpful. It is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
I love seeing that when I look at all the arts podcasts and it's like NPR's Whisper Hour, you know, or whatever, and then you just see Andrew Klavan's Another Kingdom, baby. Keep it going.
So enough about us.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Jesus.
Jesus.
Let's talk about the divine logos of the universe.
Yes, exactly.
The rebirth of mankind.
So here's the thing. I think we should do we have 3 Mondays. You're on every Monday. We have 3 Mondays before Christmas. I think we should talk about some of what this means, some of the theology behind the nativity.
There's an irony, because we always talk about the war on Christmas, and
yeah.
I do believe the war on Christmas. I'm a belligerent, you know. I'm standing firmly on the side of Christmas. I'm defending Christmas like a first crusade. But there's also a cultural, I won't even call it a war, just a total cultural neglect of Advent. It speaks to we feel uncomfortable in time and space. We don't like anxiety or anticipation, so we just want to rush ahead to Christmas. But all of the beauty of Christmas develops and grows and flowers in the Advent, in waiting for it to come and understanding what it means to wait and what we're waiting for. And so I guess we should begin with at the beginning. We should begin at the genealogies that are presented in.
People think this is the most
boring
part.
begat, and he was the son of so and so and so and so. Yeah, you know, when people read the Bible, whenever they read the genealogies at all in the Bible, they're like, oh yeah, great point. Skip. Yeah, whatever. I'll figure out the family tree later. But there's so much theology in the genealogies, even the way they're presented. You could say there are 2 traditional genealogies. There's one in Matthew and one in Luke. I think really there are 3, because there's John too. John, I think, serves as the punchline, John 1. But in Matthew...
I hate to admit it, but that's a brilliant
thank
point.
you. All right.
Yeah.
Score 1, baby.
Yeah.
27 years and 1 good point. So in Matthew, the genealogy begins exactly as you would suspect. It begins at Abraham, and it goes through 3 generations of 14 to get to Jesus. So you have Abraham to David, Solomon to the Babylonian captivity, and then on to Jesus. The numbers here are important. The Hebrew letters of the name David add up to 14. So we're seeing the Davidic promise, the Davidic message coming through the genealogy of Jesus. But what's really strange, probably the most interesting component of Matthew's genealogy, are these 4 women. He includes 4 women in it, so it's patrilineal, it's passed down by the men. But then we hear about Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and the wife of Uriah. And, you know, these women, some of them are sinners. Rahab is a prostitute, is a hooker, yeah. But I don't think that's the important aspect of the women. I think the important aspect is they're not Jews. None of those women are Jews. Yeah, I don't think any of them are Jews. And so I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they're all Gentiles. And so what you have is the introduction into the message of Jesus of the Gentiles, and saying that the mission of Christ is not just for the Jews, it is through the Jews to more people. It also ends with Mary. So there's a 5th woman that it ends with, who is a Jew, and that's Mary. Yeah. And so it goes on and on and on and on to Joseph, the husband of Mary, the mother of Jesus. So Joseph is Jesus' legal father, and so through Joseph, Jesus belongs to the house of David, but he isn't his biological father. I suppose in another sense he is, because Jesus is the Son of God, but it's separate. It brings out, Jesus comes from elsewhere. He comes from God himself. And in this, you know, there are so many Old Testament prophecies that are fulfilled in the genealogy of Jesus, and obviously in the life of Jesus. But they're never fulfilled in the way that you would expect. They're not fulfilled in a way that a human might say, well, he's not Joseph's real son, so it doesn't count, and he's not the Messiah. that misses the point. That misses. I think you might suspect that if the Messiah is going to come, the fulfillment of God's promise to man and salvation of man, it might not be the way you think it's going to be. It might come.
Right. Well, that's the prophecies, as our friend, the God King of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, is always saying. The prophecies are not so that we can tell the future; they're so that when the future comes, we'll know that they.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so you have this complement to Matthew's genealogy in Luke. Because Luke's genealogy doesn't begin with Abraham, it begins with Jesus, and it goes backwards. So what's interesting about the two of them is they disagree on most of the names. They agree on Jesus and a few others, but a lot of them are different. Even the father of Joseph is different in Luke than it is in Matthew. I think the reason for that is they're not interested in the individual people here, the individual names. They're interested in the theological message and what Christ's birth means. Not to say that there isn't historical value to some of these names, but where they disagree, I don't think it's a big deal. So we go from Jesus, and it descends backwards, all the way back to God. It says, yada, 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 Enos, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. And one message here, Pope Benedict suggests this in his excellent book on the infancy narratives, is it's so good. It is just, it reads like a little poem. Your recommendation got me to read it. And it shows that the human roots are the opposite of what we think. So when we think of genealogies, we think back from the past all the way up to the present. But the human roots don't lie in the depths, they lie in the heights. They lie in the Jesus. That's they're also in Luke's genealogy. There are 77 names, 7 times 11, which is an apocalyptic formula, but it's also, more generally, it's a number of ultimacy. Jesus says you should forgive your brother not 7 times, but 7 times 7, 77 times, right? The humanity starts anew in Jesus, and that fullness, that fulfillment is, I think, the ultimate theological message. And then there's John. So we get the forward generations, we get the backward generations. We see what that means in our relation to God. And then John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Dwelt meaning, more vividly, to pitch his tent. So this is a reference to the sacred tent of Israel in the wilderness, and it means that the beginning itself has come to us. So even asking, who is this man Jesus? Pilate asks, where are you from? Jesus gives him no answer. In John it says, the Jews grumbled about him because he said, I'm the bread that came down from heaven. And they said, is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? Like we know Jesus. He isn't some piece of bread or something. They're all asking, who is he? In these genealogies, we get a dual answer. Somehow we can know exactly who he is. We know exactly where he was born. In the particular, the universal becomes totally well known, but his origin is ultimately a mystery, and that mystery is expressed in John. Yep.
That's great. That's great. And so what happens in the world does come from another place, and it happens there's all this nature involved, all this begetting involved, and yet the source of it is so mysterious as to blow your mind and to blow open humanity. That's great stuff. Hey, I have to say, you've lived up to your story.
When I put this on today,
it suddenly elevates.
I'm sitting in my bathrobe and I kind of do my Harvey Weinstein preparation. But when I put on regal garments like this, I really need to elevate the conversation, I think.
Well, next time we're going to talk about Mary, the Queen of Heaven. And speaking of heaven, your show comes on after this. What are you talking about
today is. What
a day.
Today is extra covfefe. We're going to talk about tax reform. We're going to talk about how everybody told us we'd never get tax reform, just like everybody told us Trump wasn't going to win, just like everybody told us every other thing they've been wrong about. But we're going to talk about the best which is yet to come and the evidence for it.
Yep, excellent. Thanks a lot, Knowles. We'll talk to you again next Monday. All right.